Hello and welcome to Navigate Autism with Jane Lynn. I'm your host, Jane Lynn Britton. What if everyone looked at autism as a gift? Wouldn't that be beautiful? More and more, I see people are doing that, but our special guest today has been doing that probably her whole life, but definitely for the past 30 years in how she's been learning and coaching families with autism. And I cannot wait to introduce you to her. But before we do that, let me tell you a little bit about how our show is going today. Normally at the end, we have a segment called Ask Jane Lynn. Well, our special guest, Lori Shayew, is actually a coach. She coaches families with autism. So I have a question for her, and we're going to do Ask Lori. And my question is, many of us parents feel isolated from our friends, from our family, and we just want that connection. We want our children to be included. We want our friends and family to feel comfortable with them. How do we do that? And better yet, what if a family member or a friend says, I want to get to know your child better. How do I do that? So I thought, let's ask Lori. So make sure you stay tuned because she is going to answer that for us. But first, I want to talk about our segment, Did You Know? Because I have a few insights I want to share with you. Did you know that the best way to help your child is to help yourself first? And did you know that when we get calm and relaxed and kind of take care of ourselves, our children start to get calmer? Now, maybe you know that, it makes sense, but I didn't know that. And I didn't have time years ago to think about it or to try it, and I didn't know how to achieve it, number one, because I was so busy. I was caught up in the whirlwind of working and trying to understand autism and raising two children, one with autism, one with not, raising my husband, right? There's so much that I had going on. And it wasn't until I started to really think about it to say, yeah, it makes sense, but then I didn't know how to do it. Well, I have seen big changes. Once I found someone to help me, I saw big changes in myself, in my peace, the harmony in my house, and in my son. This is why I'm so excited to introduce you to our special guest today, because she is someone who I wish I had known 15 years ago to help me get into that place of understanding and allowing much sooner. Today's guest is Lori Shayew, and she is a gift to us parents. Now, I say that because she wrote a book called The Gifts of Autism, and her business is The Gifts of Autism. But let me tell you, she is the gift from autism, or for autism. She is helping us parents to shift our view on autism, which helps us enjoy, as I've already said, more peace, more harmony, but better yet, more connection, more of a relationship with our children. Lori is a coach, a teacher, an author, and a global leader in the field of psychology, and she has studied and worked with autism for almost 30 years. She's trained in ABA, RDI, floor time, behavior modification, and more. And she also earned her spiritual psychology degree at the world-renowned University of Santa Monica. She's used all of this training and experience to learn how to really empower herself and others by utilizing her innate capacity to really laser in on any and all blockages to give insight to that issue. She uses coaching skills, her own specific skills and techniques to help us through a very loving, kind, and effective way learn more about autism, shift our perspective, and connect with our kids. Didn't I tell you? She's the real gift of autism. So Lori, thank you for joining.
Wow, what an intro. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jane Lynn. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh gosh, the pleasure is all mine and ours. We're so excited that we met, and the things I started off with in the beginning with my intro is really what I have come to learn, feel, and believe and see to be so impactful. And I was so excited to meet you because you really are of the cut of the same cloth, right? We're the same kind of people. You believe the same things, but and it's very exciting that you have dedicated so much time to help families and seen so much progress. And I know from talking with you that wasn't always your excuse me, your perspective. So I'm curious, Lori, I'd love to hear, when did your perception shift, and kind of how did that go? What caused that? Because I know there's a backstory to it, and I'd love it if you would share that with us.
I would love to share it. Thank you for asking. Yeah, so I entered this field of autism in 1990, way before this was a whole household word, autism. People didn't even know what autism meant. I would say, "Oh, I work with autistic kids," and they'd say, "Like artistic?" And I'd be like, "Kind of." It was just wasn't in the field yet. So when I first came in, I did buy into the belief, as everyone else did, that it's a disorder, that we need to help the kids fit in, and there was that lacking kind of perspective, that we need to help them, that they need us, and yes, we help each other. I'll just say that. So in 1995, when I was a preschool teacher, I had the student, Michael, who every day, like clockwork, created a Jenga block cabin. It was a preschool class, special ed. And every day he would build this Jenga block cabin, and it looked so effortless the way he did it. It was like, so one day I was like, I want to sit next to him. I'm going to do my own, but I'm going to sit next to him. I thought, how hard could this be, right? So I build it, it's going well. And then I get to the roof, and it just keeps collapsing over and over again. Collapse. And I was like, what in the world? Like, why can't I do this? He makes it look so easy. And at one point, I just look at him, and he just tilts his head like at a very specific degree. And in a moment of like insights, all I could say is like just some really deep clarity, I realized that he was able to see degrees, a very specific degree that I could not see. Like, we see it vaguely. And so I just looked at him and I said, "Oh my gosh, Michael, there's gifts in autism." And he just gave me this big grin, and it just changed my whole perception. And from that moment on, I started looking for the gifts in autism. So that's how it all started.
That is wonderful. I love that because it's absolutely, true. I think we all have gifts, but our children do, and some we see more readily than others. Some may not. Some children may not. And I say children, I always mean of all ages. But some children with autism may not be verbal or may not be able to even look at you, so we don't really know what those gifts are. But it sounds like you've learned a way to kind of connect and really understand because you observed and maybe did other things. So what do you attribute to you really connecting and understanding him and the other kids?
I didn't know this back then. And when I look in hindsight, I can definitely see it. But I would say that I'm also wired differently. Because a lot of people would say, "Oh, wow, you have such a gift with these kids." And I'd be like, "I don't know what you mean. Like, I didn't think it was anything special other than I love them. I love being with them." So I would say that I have, a depth of being able to see them and understand them. I know they live in the present moment, and it's a beautiful place. They really appreciate all the senses. So they're known to be highly sensitive beings, which means that they're not thinking about the future, and they're not thinking about the past. They're living here in the now. So that's what I noticed, and it's been a recent discovery for me, that I'm realizing that I think I am really wired differently, so that I'm able to see them.
That's such a great perspective. As you're talking, I'm thinking, because one of the things I've learned very deeply is when I show up and in a way that's very present and in the moment, that's when I have one of my deepest connections with William. And I think my thinking on this was correct in that it's because I'm not distracted by everything else and I can just be with him and see him better. But with hearing you talk, it adds another element to it. This is where he lives, right? He's not worried about all the stuff that happened. He's not thinking about what has to happen next. So of course, if I get myself in the same place he's in, it's kind of like getting on the same frequency.
Yes.
Is that right? I mean, I'm just kind of putting that together.
That's exactly right. I mean, because they live in a higher frequency, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to most people. But what it means, they live in joy, right? Your son lives in joy. He lives in the moment. He's happy with like his experience. It's just that the rest of us have an expectation of how they should be, right? And so our expectation actually cuts off that connection that we have with them.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, you know so much from all the training and the work you've done in schools and with families. What is it that you can share with us about autism that we don't know?
Well, the biggest thing that most people really, really don't know is that they understand everything. I mean, even the ones that are the most severe in the way that we judge them and the way that we see them, the ones that are nonverbal, right? Understand everything. The receptivity, I have worked with that, I would say definitely hundreds and maybe thousands of kids on the spectrum, all over the spectrum. And my niche is actually with the nonverbal children. And I've always noticed that their receptive skills are honed in. They understand everything, but a lot of people judge their outer shell, that they're doing weird things, so to speak. They're flapping, they're stimming, they're just acting unusual. So we get caught up in judging that, and we think that they're not present. And it's just the opposite. They're absolutely present. And so we have to shift the way that we connect with them. We have to say, okay, you know what? I know you understand me. I actually tell the children, I know that you hear me and I know that you understand me. And you know what? They appreciate that because so many people talk to them like they're not even here or that they're children.
Yes. Yeah, and I see that. I do that. I'm guilty of that too, right? Because my son doesn't talk a lot. And it's so easy.
And I've been guilty of it as well.
What's that?
I have been guilty in the past of that as well.
Well, good. So we're all human. We're all human. But that makes me think of my next question for you, which was, what kind of tips and tools can you give us to help our children with autism? So what we're just talking about is they understand. They're in the present. What is it that we can do to help?
The biggest thing and what I stand for is the gifts of autism. I believe that every child and every human being actually has a gift, has many gifts actually. And I think the problem in the past is that we look at autism as a deficit. We look at as like that there's something wrong. And we tend to look at, the school system. It's all based on deficits, and that's the truth of where we are in autism. And so I'm here to flip that script and say it is time to look for the gifts. So recently there was a young man on America's Got Talent named Cody Lee, and he is shocking the world with his gifts, which is music, right? He's actually, as soon as he steps on stage, all of his stims actually cease to exist. He is completely present in the moment, and people are in awe of his performance. And so why is it? His mom caught at an early age that, wow, music was his gift. And she decided to nurture that gift. Now, not everyone has that gift. So you have to be like a detective. You have to start looking for the gift. You have to make that your intention, like, okay, my kid has a gift. I might not know what that gift is right now, but my intention is to figure it out. And your kid will show you. And you can literally say to your kid, hey, what is your gift? Show me what your gift is. And you'll be surprised. They will show you.
That sounds so simple.
I know,
and
right?
it is, right? But I'm laughing because I have been looking for that. I don't know if it's a gift or just interest, motivations in my son. And so my thing is, let me present different opportunities for him. And especially around communication, I know that there's a way he wants to communicate. So I offer typing or iPad or writing, and everything is pushing away. So I've been like, I never thought to just say, hey, how do you want to communicate? right? Because like you're saying, and I believe it too, because I see it. There's so much awareness is there, and they will find a way to communicate that or to connect with us in some way if we offer it and put ourselves in the place to receive it. It's just maybe getting as simple as, what's your gift?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. I love
Can
that.
I add another tip?
Absolutely, please.
Yeah. So you had said earlier, it's like, the kids reflect who we are, right? So we have to be really aware of our own energy, the way that we see them. We have to clear up limited beliefs, that what we have about autism or our child, because often we perceive them completely wrong. To be honest with you, we have preconceived notions of who they are, what autism is, because we've been conditioned, and it's not our fault. But as we clear up our own perception about what autism is, like, what if we just started over, just said, you know what, I got a clean slate, you got a clean slate, like, show me who you are. And sometimes you'll notice it, like, wow, like, I go into a home now, if I work at a home, and I do also Skypes and all of that, so I work home and I work online as well. But when I go into a door, I clear my mind, and I have no expectations of who they are. I don't have any expectations of their outcome. And a lot of people will be like, well, that's impossible, because don't we have to have an expectation of how they are in school? And that's a tricky one. Of course, I could see why that gets a little sticky. But if you actually like release expectations, they're going to shock you. They're going to surprise you. I've seen it. I've had nonverbal children talk to me, and I didn't have any expectations of them talking to me. I just knew that, you know what, I'm just excited to be with them in the moment. And then all of a sudden they would say, like, I love you, Lori. And I'd be like, what? Like, just really just surprised.
Oh my God, I love that so much. And I see that too. I see that with my own son, where I want to say one of the hardest things in life is to drop expectation, because society and our families and our work, everything is built upon expectation. And I think that's okay, but I think where we've taken it with our judgment and our perspective is kind of askew. But we can have goals. We always want to have goals and learn and grow, but it doesn't have to be today, right? The talking or the building the Jenga castle, whatever it is, doesn't have to be today. So if we can just let go of that expectation today, they see us relax and show up, right? And then say words. Or I see a lot more eye contact with William, or more interaction. It's because he's not feeling the judgment. Like, who wants to be judged?
Right.
Right? None of us do. So I love that. I'm so glad that you brought that tip up. And you mentioned, I wanted to go back and clarify this. How do you work with parents? So I know right now you're Skyping in from California, and you can work with anybody across in the world, right? Because you do trainings, coaching on Skype, or how does that work?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I do actually online classes or courses, and people from all over the world, enroll, and it's just beautiful. It's not just people, it's not just parents, it's educators. I have doctors sometimes. I have, people that are on the spectrum, and I create a really safe container for all of us to come together. And what I teach is, first of all, we have to raise our vibration, because our children are actually at a very high vibration. And even though a lot of people don't recognize that, they're living in unconditional love and acceptance. Like, they don't expect us to change anything about ourselves, right? Do you notice that about William?
I do. You're right. Absolutely.
They live in joy. Joy is also a very high vibration. So, it does make sense when you look at it. And if you know what vibration is and gratitude is a high vibration. So I help people and individuals increase their vibration first, so that we bridge the gap between us and our children. Yeah. That's the first thing. And then I help people connect more deeply with their children, and there's other ways to connect, because they may not speak. I mean, we can have goals that I want to communicate with my child, but don't set that goal of like how that child's going to communicate. Otherwise, you're possibly setting yourself up for failure. So what the goal is more like, I'm sure you wouldn't mind connecting more deeply with William, right?
Always. Yes.
And he can connect with you. So the goal is like, okay, show me, you want to meet him where he's at. And yes, you're grounding him in that sense. Like, as you're meeting him where he's at, you're actually able to ground him more here on earth. And that's the goal, right? We live here on earth.
Yeah.
We want to be grounded. We know grounding, it means like, the more that we spend time in nature, we do things that we love, we're grounding ourselves here. So there's many ways that we can ground ourselves, and they need us to ground ourselves because they need to be grounded. So it's just as important for us to ground ourselves so that they could be more grounded here on earth. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. Thank you. So I'm so glad that you're making yourself available to anybody and everybody. And I know that you are offering so much wisdom and help and really giving them the
There's
tools
one more
that they
thing I
need.
want to share, just because
yes.
there's a big piece too. So we have a lot of limiting beliefs around autism, right? And we have a lot of judgments because a lot of parents have a lot of guilt, whether it's like, oh, I didn't see you. I didn't know, like, I didn't know how, that you were listening the whole time. I did. So there's a lot of like self-judgments. There's a lot of guilt. And so also in the class, we release that. We heal. We work with self-forgiveness and all of that stuff. And we shift the way that we see our children, and we forgive ourselves as well. And I've seen where like a child that I work with a parent, and as I work with a parent around her own self-forgiveness, one week I couldn't even see him. He was still like in his own world. And as soon as she started working on her self-forgiveness around her judgments about him and her own judgments that she had about him, the next week he was absolutely present. And we actually saw him completely here now with us.
That's amazing. Thank you. I'm so glad that you added that. You teach so many wonderful courses. I know they're online on your website. They can learn more about, people can go there, learn more about you, your background, as well as how they can work with you. Lori, as I said, you are a gift. You are the gift. You're an author. You do have a book, The Gifts of Autism, so hopefully people will check that out. You also have a podcast that you are going to be releasing again, and all that's on your website that we can find out. Great. Thank you so much, Lori. It's great to see you. And in a minute, we're going to just switch over and do Ask Lori. So don't leave just yet, because we want to ask you that one particular question. So again, instead of Ask Jane Lynn, we have Lori Shayew, who's here joining us, and she's a coach. She helps parents, families, educators, even coaches with some doctors, right? So we have a question, Lori. I wanted to find out, how can parents work with friends and family to build a stronger connection with our children?
It's as simple as, setting the intention. Like, I really want to work with, I really want to connect with your child. Intention is so powerful. I think as soon as somebody actually says that I want to connect with your child, whether it's a family member or a friend, it's like, it's your energy, you're inviting them in, and the kid already knows, your child knows, oh, they authentically want to connect with me. So I would say it's more energetically that, like, I want to know your child. And I would say the other part is releasing any judgment around our perception of autism, because we have so many false beliefs around autism. And I think something that comes to my mind is presume competence, presume intelligence, live in the moment. So many variables right there. Your kid will know right away. Your energy says everything.
Yeah, no, I love that. So maybe having a conversation with the people in question, like the family or the friends, and saying just what you said, and just, be yourself, be authentic, and our children will know. And maybe even facilitate a gathering where
follow your child's lead.
I'm sorry?
I would say follow your child's lead too.
Yes.
So be in the moment. Like, your child, like, I've had the best experiences with children on the spectrum when I let go of any of my own agenda, right? Agenda is really a low vibration, actually. Agenda, it's like I'm in charge, I'm in control. but your kid is like, and this is for every kid, it's like we all have a gift and we all have passion. So like follow your child's lead.
Thank you, Lori. That was really very interesting and makes so much sense, right? Just going with the child's lead and being authentic and paying attention, being in the moment. And so I think what's really great about that too is that as a parent, I can explain that to my friends and family, but then it helps me because I need to be a role model for that. And I can kind of learn from it, connect more deeply, and in all of that, help my friends and family do the same.
Yes.
So thank you.
Well, it's been a great pleasure to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
So Lori, is there anything else you'd like to share with families before we say goodbye?
Yeah, what's coming up for me right now is like, if we could just release even the label of autism. I mean, autism, there's a purpose to have a label, and we can understand ourselves more if there's a label. But at the same time, what if we released, this label called autism? And I think if we do that, we're actually, like, I am now connecting with William for you, your son, William. So like, if I came in and I met William, I would just say, oh, William, like, show me who you are. What do you want to do? Like the way that we connect with each other. And I think you'll be surprised. We open up the space for opportunities when we do that, because we don't realize it, but we're constantly thinking autism, autistic, and all of that. And it's holding us back from possibility. So that's what I want to offer.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for all your wisdom and for sharing all of your gifts with all of us.
My pleasure.
With dealing with autism. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us. I look forward to seeing you next time on Navigate Autism with Jane Lynn. If you know someone who is doing something that's helping families or children with autism, or someone that you think we should highlight on this show, please email me at janelynn@navigateautism.com. One of the reasons I created this show is to be a platform so that we can get our message out and highlight resources, share information, and make sure that these people that we're talking to, like Lori Shayew, are not the best kept secret anymore. So please, if you know of someone, or if you think you may want to discuss the possibility of doing a show, then send me an email. I look forward to hearing from you.